This is a presentation on mental health awareness called Be Aware, how mental illnesses don't get enough recognition or awareness, and a lot of the time it's ignored, missed, and sometimes even mistreated. What you are going to be learning in this. In this presentation, I'll be talking about how mental illnesses affect different people and how a lot of the time it's mistreated, ignored, or missed. Mental illnesses are more often than you would think treated as taboo and looked down upon. People often go misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for a long time, some even most of their life. Having a mental illness and not getting the help or support you need can be very difficult. When people think of mental illnesses, some may think it's not that serious, it's just in their head. But actually, mental illnesses can affect you physically as well. What is mental illness? Mental illness occurs when the brain is not working as it should be. These disorders can have many causes. You may be born with it, or it could come from trauma. There are certain factors that increase your risk of obtaining a disorder. These factors are family history of disorders, stressful life situations such as financial problems and a loved one's death, ongoing medical conditions, head trauma, traumatic experiences, use of alcohol or drugs, history of abuse or neglect, and past mental illnesses. There are more than 200 classified forms of mental illnesses. Some people think that everyone's symptoms are the same. That's probably one of the worst things that people can think or spread. Everyone gets it different. People believe that certain illnesses have to look a certain way. Like if someone has depression and look happy most of the time, that does not mean that they don't have depression. That just means that it only hits bad when they are alone, that they could be good at hiding it, or many other reasons. I have really bad anxiety and I have to carry around meds for when I have an anxiety attack, even though normally I try to push through it. When I have an anxiety attack, normally people wouldn't be able to tell, because I've learned how to hide it very well. And only the people closest to me can tell unless I go into a full attack. How COVID has affected people with mental health issues. Throughout COVID, we have had multiple lockdowns, and we haven't been able to get out and do things. You would think that not having to go out and be around people would be nice for most people with mental disorders, and to be honest, I even liked it at first. However, it's actually really bad for a lot of us. In personal experience, it has made my anxiety so much worse. I used to be able to go on long and far car rides, or go out without much problem from my anxiety, but now even going to the store 5 minutes away, I can get an anxiety attack. Some people who may have a disorder either from their home environment or see their home environment as something bad can't get out as much anymore and are therefore stuck in a place they don't feel safe and or comfortable. Why some people don't get a proper diagnosis and why some people may be scared to. Mental illnesses can be difficult to diagnose, and most of the time it's a lot of trial and error. Getting an accurate diagnosis can take months and sometimes even years. Another problem is that every person's symptoms are different, even if it's just by a bit. It can even depend on your sex. With ADHD, a lot of the time it affects the males differently than females. When a male gets ADHD, he will normally show externalized symptoms, which can be seen as a typical bad behavior, like being loud and playing too roughly. Girls are more likely to have internalized symptoms like inattentiveness and low self-esteem. Some people may not get a proper diagnosis because their family could see it as a stigma or a weakness, so they may avoid getting a diagnosis or they are not allowed to. Some may also feel that if they get diagnosed with a mental illness, they will have less opportunities in the future for jobs. How mistreating can affect someone. I've actually experienced this in a very severe way. I've always been really sick, and when I was younger, the doctor told my mother that me feeling sick was all in my head, and she believed them because they were a specialist. When I was in grade 6, I was in pain for a few days, and one night it was so bad that I wanted to go to the hospital, but my mom was hesitant to take me because at that time she still believed the doctor. But she took me anyways because she seen that I really wasn't feeling well. After a few hours at the hospital and having a few tests done, the doctor came to talk to my mom and told her that I needed emergency surgery because my appendix was about to burst. My mom was both angry and sad at herself and the doctors, and eventually took me to a gastroenterologist and found out that I have IBS, and later found out that I also have chronic pain and nausea. Some doctors will treat mental illness like this, and it's terrible. When someone has something mentally wrong with them, it's very easy for people to blame almost everything on that. However, unless they are 100% sure that it's because of the mental illness, they should never blame it on that first. When I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, I went to Sick Kids, and the doctors there were very surprised and slightly angry that my doctor didn't even bother to do other tests and just went straight to blame my anxiety. They said no matter what, saying it's anxiety should never be the first go-to. why it's so important to be aware of mental illness and not spread false information. Mental illness affects 19% of the adult population, 46% of the teenage population, and 13% of children each year. When there is less awareness, these disorders can be missed or mistreated by the people around. When there is not a good understanding for things, it's easy for people to act as if it's a bad or weird thing and make the person feel bad about how they are. When mental illnesses go untreated or mistreated, it can lead to higher medical expenses, poorer performance in school and work, fewer employment opportunities, and increased risk of suicide. Here are a few illustrations that I like of mental disorders.